camera right now. So we're in for a treat. I don't think we've done a show specifically on arthritis, but whenever we have Dr. Susan Blum on the show, we're going to target our body and our immune system in a way that we've never done before. So fasten your seatbelts because we are going to learn and grow together with Dr. Blum. So I'm pretty sure this music is going to start pretty soon, and we get to dance. I don't hear any music. There we go. Okay, I know it's early, but it's time to dance. There you go. There you go. You know what? Movement in the morning is so good. All different kinds.
If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be. I'll be right here. Right here, and when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
Here we go.
This is the place we always turn to, the Lillian McDermott Show. We talk to Lillian, visitor on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And if you've been listening to the show and this is your second or your 100th time visiting the show or listening 7 years, I'm so grateful to you. Welcome back. But if this is the first time that you have stumbled upon the show, just know I've been waiting for you. This is a place where you go to when you need a friend. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal. And it's my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today we're giving a book away, and I know many of you have been waiting for this show. We're going to be talking about arthritis. Arthritis affects so many people, but does it have to? Can you do something different to eliminate symptoms, reverse the disease? Well, autoimmune diseases are among the most prevalent forms of chronic illness in this country. Over 23.5 million Americans have been told that they have an autoimmune disorder. Do you have one? Any kind? Well, the author of the Immune System Recovery Plan, and of course we've brought her back many times for that, for her experience, but she also is the founder of the Blum Center for Health. Dr. Susan Blum has another book out that I was unaware of, and it's called Healing Arthritis. Last time she was on the show, I said, you know what? We really need to do this show because I have so many loyal listeners that have been begging. And now we have the source, the person that we can trust to help us heal, not just from arthritis, but we can heal our gut, mind, body, and spirit. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Susan Blum is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Blum, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Just like your first book that you did was just perfect, you created another book. You have another. So the Immune System Recovery Plan, we've talked about several times on the show, but Healing Arthritis, why did you tell us a little about your background and why you wrote this particular book?
And so, well, my background is I'm a conventionally trained physician, as a lot of you listeners have heard me on the show before, but just briefly, I was initially trained in internal medicine, and I really was fascinated with the idea of prevention and preventive medicine, which brought me into the worlds of mind-body medicine and understanding the foundations of primary prevention. Where does disease come from? How do you prevent disease? And what I discovered was, in my exploration outside the box, I ended up in the world of functional medicine, which is really it's really a different operating system for how to understand how to look at the body, the detective work to find the root cause of illness. And what I discovered was the tools that are the lifestyle change and healing the gut and detoxification and all these strategies for preventing disease is also the same approach that we use to repair the body and heal disease too. So I really became a chronic disease expert, and I started practicing functional medicine in 2011, a long time ago. And I discovered I had just hundreds and turned into thousands of people with autoimmune disease coming in to see me and so that's sort of how I ended up writing my first book. Also, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis myself. And really, as we all know, anyone who's listening, who's in the health field at all, often our own health condition or a family member, who has something inspires us to really dig in and try to find new ways, and we learn on ourselves and practice on ourselves. And so that's what I did. And I discovered really how to repair and heal my Hashimoto's, and I reversed it within 2 years. And everything I learned and then everything I was doing with my patients in this regard, I put into the first book. After the first book came out, what the very interesting thing, everyone knows about the gut microbiome, and we're all there's all this in the news about the gut health and gut microbiome. In the past 5 years since the first book came out, the research on the gut just exploded, and the research linking the gut with arthritis exploded. Mm-hmm. And I just felt I needed to talk about that and really share that information with people.
Yeah, and it is so important for those of us. There's everybody wants to take the pill so that they can treat the symptom. But today we're not going to talk about taking the pill. We're going to talk about treating the body, mind, and spirit, and everything. Well, I'm not against the pill. As you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. But we're going to talk about the things that we can do to help prevent, to help repair the body. And if you guys are ready to go on this journey with us, then we have a great show for you. Be the 10th caller or texter to get the book, Healing Arthritis. That's the 10th caller or texter for Healing Arthritis. That's 407-373-5959. Let the calls begin. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Susan Blum when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Yes. And, it's interesting with the first time that you hear the gut-mind connection, and you're thinking, how does that happen? How do we neglect that connection for so many years, or did we forget about the mind-gut connection?
Well, I think that we never really understood the importance of the role of the gut. And when we talk about gut, we really, what I think of, I'm referring to the two things: the gut microbiome, which is those 100 trillion bacteria that live in and among us. Mm-hmm. Estimates are that the DNA from all the bacteria in our gut, in our lungs, on our skin, are probably more than our own cells in our body. Mm-hmm. And so we never really understood the role of the gut microbiome. Mm-hmm. And these are these bacteria, and they help us with our immune system. And really, I like to say that, well, certainly you want a healthy immune system, you have to have a healthy gut. Mm-hmm. But the gut microbiome, we're learning, is ground zero for probably every process in the body, especially inflammation. We know it's really where the origin of disease begins. And so a healthy gut is critical to have a healthy body. And so we're learning the gut is connected to everything. It's connected to the mind. It makes neurotransmitters, which is really fascinating, right? So all the research ended up exploring the role of these bacteria.
There's never enough time to talk about things like this, but you always explain it in a way that is just so empowering for us to know that if we were to just start with that, in this place, do you think that the majority of the people, if we just repaired our gut, do you think our bodies would follow suit?
100%. But here's the thing: repairing the gut isn't just a quick fix.
I know.
And as I know, and I know.
We're going to talk about that on the air because we're about to get started. Oh, is that 30? Are we on? No, we're not on.
Okay.
So I got
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you're giving us the 30-second. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes. And so I want to talk about all of that on the show.
Yes.
But I love getting people to come and listen to the extra bonus because we've got to take back our life. We're victims to the guilt. Okay, here we go.
Call me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
You can text Lillian McDermott or leave her a voicemail at 407-373.
Call's already started.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn from one another. Today's teacher is Dr. Susan Blum. Love her. And the information that you get, not everybody can go to a doctor that's world renowned, but you can listen to them on the show and you can certainly get their book. And if you are the 10th caller or texter today, there you go. You will win the book, Healing Arthritis. That's 407-373-5959. Healing Arthritis, 10th caller or texter by Dr. Susan Blum. Now, we've talked about diabetes, dementia. We talk about cancer on the show. Very rarely do we focus solely on arthritis. And so today is dedicated for all of you loyal listeners who have said, please, please, please do a show on arthritis. Boom, there you go. And you've got the best. Okay, so let's talk about arthritis. You hear about different kinds of arthritis, systemic or, rheumatoid. You hear about all these different things. Some people have it, but don't even have symptoms. Can you explain why that is? If there are different kinds of arthritis and what kinds are they?
Yes, and this is really important. And in the book, I really, the very first section of the book I think the title is, what kind of arthritis do you have, right? Mm-hmm. It's really important to really understand this because there's a little bit of nuances about the cause, like treating the root cause of the condition. This is one of those situations where it is good to know what kind of arthritis you have. Sure. So I'm always a little bit reluctant to pigeonhole people into a diagnosis, mm-hmm. but I'm going to give you three broad categories. The first is called inflammatory arthritis, which is really the autoimmune grouping. And this is rheumatoid arthritis, and the spondyloarthritis is called like ankylosing spondylitis, psoriatic arthritis. And then there's all sorts of, there's sort of the arthritis of unknown origin, right? So inflammatory arthritis without a name, they think it's going to be rheumatoid arthritis, but really it's this whole category of inflammatory arthritis conditions. And so that's the first kind. And there's all sorts of blood tests. You can go to rheumatologist and you can definitely know if you have that kind of arthritis. The second big category is osteoarthritis. And I always smile when I talk about osteoarthritis because everybody thinks that's the inevitable. As I age, I'm going to have it no matter what. This is the degenerative joint disease. Sometimes it's after an injury, but this is the joint, what happens in the joint with wear and tear. But I'm here to tell you that, you don't inevitably have to have pain and inflammation, even if you have wear and tear. So we'll come back to that. But that's the second big category. Mm-hmm. You get diagnosed by an X-ray for osteoarthritis. And then the third big category is arthritis from infections. And it's really important, and I outline this in the book, you have to make sure that you've been tested because that's a whole different way you have to get treated. If you have Lyme disease, there's certain kinds of bacteria and viruses that can trigger arthritis, especially after you have a viral infection. You can have just a run of arthritis that has to do with the infection. And so you always want to make sure that you're tested and cleared for a potentially treatable infection. And I give you all the tests to ask your doctor for in the book. Sure. And so today, I think what we'll focus on mostly is the inflammatory arthritis conditions as well as osteoarthritis, because those are really the most prevalent. Those are the chronic arthritis conditions that we really have to look at the root cause and try to understand what we can do to reverse that pain and inflammation that you're having.
Very good. Very good. So when it comes to the inflammatory and osteoporosis or the osteoarthritis, we are able to not only prevent it, but we can repair our bodies. So it's not the end all be all. Is this like a wake up call from our body saying, hey, you're doing something that's hurting me. I'm squeaking right now. Would that be a a good way of putting it, or is there any other way of looking at arthritis?
Yeah, no, I think that arthritis is a symptom, and now an itis, when you have an itis, there are four things that occur. It's pain, redness, swelling, pain, and heat. Those are the classic definition in the medical world of an itis, of inflammation. So redness, swelling, pain, and heat. Sometimes you might have like an ache in one of your fingers and the joint, and it hurts a little bit, but it's not red and swollen, and that's called an arthralgia. So that is technically, and it could be what's coming before arthritis. So you should wake up and feel and realize that that's definitely a wake up call. Because the question is, if you're having some inflammation in your joints, and maybe it's your hip or your knees, it doesn't have to be the small fingers. And that again does help direct you to what kind of arthritis you have, where the joint is. It's a wake up call that there's inflammation running amok in your body that's ending up in your joints. And so I always like to say that if you have two people with the same x-ray and you put it up on the wall and it shows osteoarthritis, for example, like some wear and tear in the joints, one person might have pain and the other person doesn't. And so there are other factors at play that are determining the level of pain, right? And so that's what I want to talk about, is where the inflammation is coming from in the rest of your body that's landing in the joints, because you can do something about that. And before we move to that, I do want to just, for those of you out there saying, wait a second, I've got bone-on-bone arthritis, my doctor says I need a hip replacement. Once you're past a certain point in osteoarthritis where the joint is that damaged, we can definitely work to minimize and lower the amount of pain, but it's not going to rescue you if you've gotten that far. Okay, so
early detection and
that's why early detection is really important, and you need to wake up and do something about it before you get yourself to that point where lifestyle change, healing the gut, and the kind of work we're talking about can't help anymore.
Yeah, well, we went on the break. For those of you, I keep telling you, we talk about different things off the air, so I want to make sure that you watch the YouTube video of this broadcast, because we talked about the gut and the microbiome. But so here's the thing, Dr. Blum. Whenever somebody gets a diagnosis where the doctor says, oh, you have arthritis, here's a pill.
Right.
Here's an excuse for you to continue doing what you were doing. So here's a get out of jail pass. So just take the pill so that you continue doing what you're doing. What are some of the things that are huge, the reasons why, contributors, why people get arthritis?
So I want to answer that, but I just want to quickly say that sometimes a pill is necessary.
Yes.
Okay. And then we'll move on. But because people, especially if you have inflammatory autoimmune arthritis, sometimes like rheumatoid arthritis can be like a train that like sort of rails down the tracks and causes joint damage very quickly in some people. And so there's this sense of emergency, like we got to stop the train, otherwise you'll have irreversible damage when you first diagnosed. So often people might show up with this really severe sort of initial presentation of the disease. And so the doctors want to get you on medication to slow things down, and you might be suffering and in terrible pain. Okay. And so I'm here to say, and so it's really important to remember that you actually can start medication if you need to, while doing the work we're going to talk about, working on the triggers, right? And then that will help you get off the medication and stay off the medication.
Perfect.
Okay? So
knowing that,
let's move into where you're going to go and where do we work. So the three big, that sort of trifecta, is, so the gut health I mentioned is really important.
Yes.
But the two big influences on gut health that also have its own direct influence on inflammation is food and stress and emotions. Okay. And so those are the three things. So we start working on lifestyle, which is an anti-inflammatory diet and an anti-arthritis diet, which we'll talk about. Making sure that you're balancing and doing your work on balancing life and stress, because food and stress are the number 1 and 2 most influential factors determining the health of your microbiome. And then we get to healing the gut, which is ground zero, central. If you do anything else, you have to change your diet, because that's what's ultimately going to help your gut, is you must make sure your gut microbiome is healthy, because that is where inflammation begins.
Very good. So let's talk about some of because the first thing you said was food.
Yes.
Let's talk about the worst foods to eat if you have arthritis or if you want to prevent arthritis.
Well, that's, I rather than answering it that way, I do want to frame food and I want to frame food for your listeners this way.
Okay.
Everyone, I'm not going to give people a food plan. Okay. Because, there's so much confusion out there about the different kinds of food. And so what I want people to understand is that an anti-inflammatory diet where everyone should start has fat, and I am going to actually answer what you asked, by framing it this way. We all have in common, whether you're following paleo or Mediterranean or ketogenic or, you name it, any kind of like food plan that's out there, autoimmune, paleo, we all have in common the things is where you start, which is the quality of all the choices of your food. So number one, the quality of your carbohydrates. Get rid of the sugar. Sugar, processed food, white flour products. Sugar is inflammatory. It will increase fat. It will increase, body fat. It will increase your risk of diabetes, which increases your risk of arthritis. And so sugar itself increases inflammatory reactions in the body. So quality of your carbs, cut out the sugar and all that means, which we could talk more about if we have time, but think of it as hidden sugar. Even yogurt that's mixed with fruit has 40 grams of sugar in it. So you have to start reading the labels and really try to get all your sugar in anything you eat under 15 grams. Okay. So sugar. Number two, quality of your fat. The fat that you're eating determines the level of inflammation in your body. Humans eat way too much of what we call omega-6s, which is processed vegetable oils, saturated fat, animal fat, and then not enough of the anti-inflammatory omega-3s, which is in nuts and seeds and fish, right? So shifting the quality of the fats, getting rid of those high processed vegetable oils that are made, the factories that process oils now, high heat with solvents, brings toxins into your body. It's just really bad fats and the hydrogenated fats. So really working on the quality of your fat. Once you start moving over to sourcing your fat from fish and
avocados
and avocado and nuts and seeds and coconut and ghee is a little bit okay, depending on if you have high cholesterol, you might want to not go overboard on those. Mm-hmm. Olive oil. Oh, I almost didn't say extra virgin olive oil is like drown yourself in olive oil. It's the best fat. I mean, I eat so much olive oil every day. So the quality of your fat, the quality of your animals. Okay. This is number three. I call this my 5 guidelines for choosing food. So quality of carbs, quality of fat, quality of the protein you're choosing. You're eating what the animal ate. So feedlot cows that were fed corn, if you're going to eat beef, you really need to choose grass-fed and finished beef and choosing organic poultry. If you don't, it's shot up with antibiotics, which will change your gut. When you eat those animals that have antibiotics in them, it will alter your microbiome, right? So you have to try to figure out how to eat clean protein, right? And choosing mercury, fish from the low mercury fish list, which you can get at the Environmental Working Group has a great website you can go to get the good, clean fish list. And so things like that. So that's number 3. Number 4 is get the toxins out of your food. The food dyes, the preservatives, the sodium, really looking at the sort of the getting the toxins out, because toxins trigger inflammation. Choosing and then focusing on all the plants. That's number 5. Guidelines for choosing food. Eat plants whenever you can. So vegetables.
Okay, very good, very good. This is very important information. And for those of you who want a copy of the book, Healing Arthritis, be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Susan Blum when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Now, Dr. Blum, you know that I don't know if I've mentioned this to you before, but Dr. Joel Fuhrman is regular on my show.
Yeah.
And he says that if you want olive oil, eat the whole olive. That when you take the olive out of the oil, if you take the oil out of the olive, that you're not getting the whole food, that you're really getting all the calories without all the benefits. Where do you draw the line when it comes to that?
Well, first of all, I do want to point out that that my 5 guidelines for choosing food is where we start. And then there's very specific details, which we will get back into about arthritis, right? Like nightshade vegetables and lectins. There's all this, all the people out there like Dr. Furman that have specific ideas for how to personalize these programs for each person. And so, but I really always like to start with the 5 guidelines for choosing food, like I did, okay? Specifically answering your question about olives.
Yeah.
This is why I talked about also solvent extraction. It's how the oil's prepared.
Good.
Thousands of years, man has been using first cold pressed olive oil. And what that means is it's cold pressed, so you're not processing and destroying anything. And it's the first pass. So when you press the olive oil like that, if you look at it in the store, you see it's green and it's got all that color. It's because you're getting all the nutrients. You get the antioxidants, you get the vitamin E. It all comes through and it is in the olive oil. Sometimes there's little particulates in it. So it's how you prepare the olive oil that matters. And there's plenty of studies looking at using olive oil, and it absolutely it has health benefits to use that as your oil in your diet.
And because here's what happens. Typically what we buy in the grocery store is not the cold pressed.
Right. You have to read that label.
That's right. You've got to read the label. And doesn't it go bad like relatively quickly?
Well, no, I mean, it's kept in, that's why it's nice to get it in those aluminum jars so it's not exposed to light, but, or dark glass bottles. Yeah. It's not, you keep it someplace cool, right? And not next to the stove, because all oils will turn bad if it's subjected to heat. Yeah. First cold pressed, because the first pressing is going to have all those nutrients. And then if it just says cold pressed, then it could be the 3rd, 4th, 5th. You continue to press it, but that first nectar that comes off of when the first pressing is going to have all those nutrients. And so we have to try not to instill fear in everybody. Everyone just doesn't know what to go buy. And so first cold pressed olive oil is tried and true in populations around the world, in blue zones, in the Mediterranean diet. You go where we have data, and there's plenty of data. And that's why I love the Mediterranean diet. It's so balanced. It's so, it's easy to implement, and it's cultural, it's social. You don't have to lock yourself in a box and be afraid to eat things. And Correct. So you have to bring the emotion, right? We were talking about emotion at the break, at the break. And so it's balance,
Yeah, I was given the first press, a young man who's from, I think he's from Israel. I think that's what, and he said, "You'll never have any oil better than our family's oil." And he gave me some of it, and we put it in a little jar, and it was totally green.
Yeah.
Very, very thick. And he said, "This will heal any disease in your body." And, and he goes, "No one can convince me otherwise." Right. And so, but here's the thing, if I eat oil all day, that's going to hurt me. So we have to also eat in moderation, everything in moderation.
That's right. I'm happy to talk on that topic too. About ketogenic and too much fat and all that.
Oh yeah.
But that's like nectar. It's so filled with polyphenols and antioxidants, things that are good for the gut. I mean, really, this is what I'm trying to point out. Really, it's the quality. The quality of what you're choosing.
Yes. Okay. So we talked about the food. Do you want to continue talking about food?
Yes.
And okay, we're going to continue. Okay, I'm going to talk about my show.
I want to do arthritis.
Talk about specifically arthritis.
Okay, here we go.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal that we learn from each other. This is like the classroom of my life, and we get to all learn together. I hope that you join me in this journey. And today's teacher is Dr. Susan Blum. She is the author of, one of her books is Healing Arthritis, and we are talking about healing arthritis today. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5685. 5959. I am really, really excited that we get to take our health back every day on the show, learn something new that we may not have known. The person that stands before you may know something you don't know. And so go through life with this curiosity as opposed to criticism. You know, just because someone thinks differently than you doesn't mean they're wrong and you're right, or you're wrong and they're right. So let's create that balance and be curious. Research things. Everything you hear, even if you hear it on my show, I want you to research it until it becomes your truth. I research everything that I do on the show until it becomes my truth. And so I bring that to you just for education. You choose what you want to do. And this conversation doesn't end when the show ends. I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we learn a new truth, that maybe what you thought was real or true when you were a child no longer supports you. So I would like for you to look at whenyouneedafriend.com. And while you're there, follow me on my social media, hit all the little buttons and subscribe. And also subscribe to my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is like the extra bonus if you want to learn more, because we have these conversations off the air that we just don't have time. The hour goes by so quickly. So this is an opportunity to learn more. Now, while you are there and you subscribe to my YouTube channel and also my website at whenyouneedafriend.com, just know that the show will be sent to you and you will get access to lots of information before anybody else does. But while you're there at whenyouneedafriend.com, I ask that you please check out my sponsors. Without my sponsors, this show would not happen. So I'm always looking for sponsors that are like-minded. So please feel free to call me at 407-373-5959 and figure out ways that you can support my sponsors the way they are supporting the show. Now, today we are, of course, you can follow me on social media, on podcasts. I'm on most podcasts, and you can always call or text me 407-373-5959. As a matter of fact, be the 10th caller or texter and win a free copy of Healing Arthritis by Dr. Susan Blum. Dr. Susan Blum can be found at blumhealthmd.com. That's blumhealthmd.com. And you are able to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. If you want a copy of the book, you can find it there as well and make it as easy for you as possible. So Dr. Blum, before we went on the break, we talked about the different kinds of arthritis. And today we're talking about the osteoarthritis and inflammatory arthritis, not the infectious arthritis. And we just finished talking about food and how foods can contribute to arthritis as well, the quality of food. Is there anything that you'd like to add before we move forward?
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So the 5 guidelines for choosing food that I shared with everybody was all about quality, no matter what kind of food plan you're on. And that's just, for the rest of your life, I wanted you to understand that this is important for your health. Now I want to just focus a little bit specifically on arthritis, right? And so the foods that whenever, in terms of an anti-arthritis kind of food plan, I always recommend that people start with, there's 2 parts. The first part is sort of discovering if there are any specific foods that trigger symptoms for you. And that's where we do an elimination diet. And so we always remove gluten, dairy, soy, corn, eggs, and sugar, right?
You should come up with a song about that.
I know, we should. So there's always this basic elimination diet. So it's gluten and dairy and even soy and corn, I find, are triggers for a lot of people. We need to determine what foods might be triggering inflammation for you. And the other big group, there's 2 other groups I want to speak to. One is the nightshade family of vegetables, which are tomatoes, potatoes, eggplant, and peppers. These seem to be particularly irritating for people with arthritis. And so we always remove those at the beginning of a program, right? And the third group, which I don't want to get down this rabbit hole too much, but it almost reminded me about when you said about everybody doing research and like taking and balance and accepting what other people say and maybe bringing it in and not just saying, pushing other people's opinions aside. There's a big movement and discussion about this category of foods called lectins. And lectins are an irritating compound in some plants, like in grains and legumes. And so there are some people that advocate, and if you have severe autoimmune rheumatoid arthritis or other kinds of, or psoriatic arthritis or ankylosing spondylitis, there is an argument to be made for removing all like high lectin foods, which are the grains and the legumes. And so there are people out there who will tell you that I'm following, Gundry's book, or different kinds of people out there that advocate removing all a lectin, for a low lectin, lectin-free diet. And so what I want you to understand, I want all the listeners to understand, is that you need to experiment for yourself. Sort of what you just said about do your own research. Well, these are food groups that for some people are huge triggers. And so you need to discover for yourself if you need to remove them. So they're the basics. So again, the basics: gluten, dairy, soy, corn, eggs. And then there's the second grouping, which are the nightshade vegetables. And then even more extreme is removing all the lectins. And so I like to take people through, start with just the basics. If that doesn't help you feel better, then you take out the nightshades actually come for me and arthritis people. They come first in the first group. But the lectins, I usually go there next. If you're not feeling better, I say, okay, let's try taking out all the grains and the legumes. And so food is really important. It has the power to trigger inflammation. Part of the reason, and this will help us, I think, move on to the gut, is that food is tremendously powerful, not just in its own ability to trigger inflammation directly, but also via damaging the gut. And that's why lectins are considered bad, is because they damage the intestinal lining and cause something called leaky gut. So leaky gut is just the name for increased intestinal permeability. There are little gates in the intestinal lining called tight junctions, and they can get damaged. And when they're damaged, the contents of the gut can slip into the body and trigger inflammation. And so that's where I want to move next in our discussion, because we have to get to this part, because healing the intestinal lining and healing the microbiome, because the bacteria in your gut help keep the lining healthy, right? So they go together: dysbiosis, an imbalance in the gut, microbes, and then leaky gut. And that's the root of arthritis. And so while you've got this going on in your gut, your food plan might need to be very restrictive, but don't worry, it's not forever. For now, you might need to remove these foods as you experiment, but I explain to you in the book, right? So here's my book.
Yeah.
I explain to you how to remove the foods, and give you hope, and show you how to reintroduce them down the road.
Well, we did the Lillian McDermott radio show, gosh, many, many years ago, probably 2-3 years ago. And I'm thinking maybe starting it all over again. Is you have the elimination, in the book, the immune system recovery plan.
Yes.
So that would be something good that we could all do together if we wanted to do an elimination diet, as you talked and suggested just a little while ago. Now, as we are becoming our own MD, our own medical detectives, and doing our own work, and because it's not a one size fit all.
Right.
And we have got to figure out what it is. And that's what I feel, that with medication, it's a one size fits all. But if you can use that and then start weaning yourself off of these things, that would be great. So now that we talked about food, the next you want to talk about is gut.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is it about our gut that we need to embrace about ourselves?
Well, it's, in the past, this is, again, the reason I wrote the book on arthritis, is because the research is just every day there's a new study coming out that's been digging into exploring the role of the microbes that live in us, in our gut, with health and disease. And so we've determined that certain disease states, something called dysbiosis, which is an overgrowth of sort of what we call harmful microbes. It's sort of like your garden. If you think about your garden, there's always weeds in the garden. You want to have flowers, and then there are weeds that are always trying to grow and take over your garden. And under certain conditions, the weeds can overtake the garden. And so dysbiosis is almost like the weeds have overtaken the garden. There's harmful microbes that are always there in the background, in the soil, but they're not allowed to grow. But there are conditions that can allow them to grow. And this is where we'll come back to, but this is where stress and emotion can end up letting the weeds take over the garden directly from how the emotional reactions and the stress reaction bathe the ecosystem and the environment in chemicals and neurotransmitters. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So I always have to throw that in.
I love it. Yeah.
But coming back to the microbes, so 100 trillion good bacteria live in our gut. They are 90% live in the colon, 10% in the small intestine. They release, they're immunomodulators. They actually talk to your immune system. They release compounds that keep your intestinal lining strong. They're really, really important for determining your level of immune health and inflammation in the body.
Amazing. And that is the stuff, like we are a universe within ourselves, and our cells are like, we govern ourselves in so many different ways, and they speak to us and we need to speak back to them and understand. And we're going to continue this conversation, be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Blum when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Amazing. Amazing. I picture, did you ever see the movie, The Matrix?
Yes.
Okay.
I have three sons.
Okay.
So I watched all those movies with everybody. Yeah.
I was not able to watch I don't like science fiction. I just don't. If I'm going to spend a time watching television, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to educate myself or whatever. But I could not tolerate that movie until someone said, watch it again and look at it as your microbiome. That did it for me. Looking at the movie, The Matrix, like the struggle between good and evil in our gut, good bacteria, bad bacteria. Have you ever heard of that?
No, actually.
But can you imagine how, because then it made sense, because that's what it is in our world, the gut, in our gut world. So, when it comes to our gut, because we're on our fourth segment, going into our fourth segment now. So when we're looking at the gut, what are some of the important things that we need to become aware of?
Well, we need to become aware of, everybody needs to become aware of whether or not their gut's okay, right? So, and what that means is a couple of ways to know, right? Do you have digestive symptoms? Have you been struggling your whole life with irritable bowel syndrome? Have you noticed if you have gas and bloating after you eat? Are you chronically constipated? That you need to become aware of the symptoms that might signal that you might have dysbiosis or leaky gut, right? It's two conditions that will undermine. We're now connecting dysbiosis and leaky gut to obesity and depression and MS. And we know the autoimmune, I talked about this in my first book, the Immune System Recovery Plan. So we know that in autoimmunity, but cardiovascular disease, it's now everything, right? So how do you know if you have a problem with your gut? Well, first, if you have any of those health conditions, you have to decide that you're going to work on the health of your gut. Yeah. If you have digestive symptoms, then you definitely have to work on the health of your gut. And what does that mean? We need to improve the health of the microbes. And the way that we do that is, in functional medicine, I often will do stool testing for people, but that's not available and it's not necessary for everybody. Okay. So what you need, so there's food approaches to doing that. So eating cultured foods, fermented foods. For some people, taking a probiotic is helpful. You want to restore the good bacteria, but you also might need to do a little weed removal. I call it weed killing. And so I use a lot of herbs to reboot the gut, to sort of clean out those weeds from the garden. And this is where I use things like berberine and uva ursi and black walnut, like oregano. Sometimes you might need a little gut reboot, or gut treatment. And so I do talk about that a lot on my website. You can read, I have a whole Heal My Gut section on blumhealthmd.com.
Very good. Heal My Gut. It's like Skip My Ride. Heal My Gut.
Heal My Gut.
Very good. Okay, this is the last segment. I'm just going to let you take over.
Or leave her a voicemail.
What's important to you?
373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Dr. Susan Blum. You can find her at blumhealthmd.com, and you can also be the 10th caller or texter to win the book healing arthritis. Are you ready to heal? That's the question we have to answer. Are you ready to heal? Healing arthritis is a great start to changing your life and taking your health back. Be the 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. I love all the texts that I'm getting. And I just, there's such a need for us to know that we can prevent and reverse disease in our body. Now, during the break, we were talking about gut health, and we've talked about other kinds of information. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, check out the YouTube video once it's up. And so, Dr. Blum, I know that there's never enough time. So I said to you, let's just go to this last segment and you share what you feel is the most important parts that we have not been able to talk about yet because there's never enough time.
Right. Okay. So what I want your listeners to understand is that if you have pain in your joints, you might be thinking it's a problem in your joints. But what I want you to understand that the pain in your joints is inflammation that's coming from somewhere else in your body. Okay? Truly. And so we have to think of this as a systemic illness, not just in your joints. This is the big issue with conventional medicine, right? We're broken up into pieces. Mm-hmm. And so we must work on the inflammation where it's coming from in the rest of your body. We talked about food. We didn't talk that much about stress, but I mentioned it a few times. So food and stress and the gut microbiome. If you want more information about how to heal your gut, I have a whole Heal My Gut section on my website, blumhealthmd.com. Go read about it there. But there's a whole gut healing program that we do in functional medicine. It's called the 5R Gut Restoration Program. You could find a functional medicine practitioner. Healing the gut is what I've been doing since 2001. Okay, so we know how to do that. It can be done, and you will feel better. It will help your arthritis. The last piece I want to make a very important point about is in osteoarthritis, because there's a lot of research looking at obesity and the relationship between obesity, metabolic syndrome, diabetes, and osteoarthritis. Everyone thinks, this is what I want to make sure everyone hears me when I say this, it's not inevitable as we age that you're going to have arthritis. There is something you can do about it, okay? Yes, there's wear and tear in the joints. Yes, you can have damage you can have an injury, and that will increase your risk of developing arthritis in your joint. But there's additional inflammation that shows up and causes more pain and more problems when you have too much body fat, as our fourth big thing, right? So we talked about food and stress and gut health. The fourth big thing I want you to remember is that if you're overweight, and especially if you have a big belly, that what we call abdominal obesity, which is your hip to waist ratio is big. So that just means that you have a lot of fat wrapped around your inner organs in your abdomen, and that increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, everything related to sort of metabolic syndrome. And osteoarthritis is increasingly being discovered to be a metabolic disease. We're finding leptin, one of the hormones, inflammatory hormones, that's released from the fat cells, especially the inflammatory fat in your gut. And there's high leptin levels in the joints. And so there's this big connection. And so it's losing weight, losing your body fat. It's not just about losing the weight, like the tension on your knees, that's going to help that. That's what we always thought. But it's about reducing body fat.
Very good. Very good. Very important information, because most people think, oh, I'm obese because I inherited it from my DNA. And the reality is we inherit our family recipes as well, and behaviors too. That's what we inherit, because we can turn it on, turn it off as well. Okay. So we talked about foods that are no-nos. We talked about things to look at, to eliminate, but what are some of the healing properties in our life that we can add to create that balance?
Yes. Thank you for bringing us back to that, because so the way you want to choose to eat, okay, let's just talk about food. And I'm giving a presentation soon for a nutrition presentation, and we were talking about, and I'm doing all my slides, and this whole idea of mindful eating and emotional eating. And I was thinking about culture, right? And so I was thinking about how I've changed a lot of our recipes, our family recipes, to make them a little more healthy. So you can do that. So what does that mean? The research is very clear that a Mediterranean, which is very plant-based, Mediterranean diet, vegetarian, vegan diets are the best for arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of studies looking at food and arthritis, as well as for gut health. And there are really good studies looking at the improvement in arthritis and the improvement in the gut when they're together with the food chain, that people feel better, right? So changing your food, eating Mediterranean, eating vegetarian will improve arthritis and improve the gut at the same time. And so there's a connection there. So lots of leafy greens, lots of cruciferous vegetables, because you also want to eat in a way that's going to keep your toxin load low, because toxins will also trigger inflammation in the body. So detox and gut supportive food. So vegetables, fiber. Fiber helps feed the gut microbes. The gut microbes make something called short chain fatty acids out of the fiber. It's all about an ecosystem. You know, you want, and it takes time. These are permanent lifestyle change. Plant-based eating is really the best gut supportive anti-arthritis way to eat. And so that's really what I would leave people with, especially, you know, in the world of, we started talking about elimination, what to take out. That's just temporary. That's at the beginning. We do that as the jump start. In the arthritis book, it's a 3-step program. It's Leaky Gut Diet for Arthritis, heal your gut, and then step 3 is finish what you started, the long-term plan of how to eat. And that's really moving people towards a Mediterranean diet. It's cultural, it's social, it's a glass of red wine, you know, it's eating in balance. It's only a little, Mediterranean people eat very little dairy, very little animal food, you know, meat. It's very fish-based. It's a lot of polyphenols and all the whole grains, whole foods. There's no processed food, a lot of extra virgin, first cold pressed olive oil and olives, you know, and so look at those countries, and those are blue zones. That's where there's longevity and low inflammation. The blue zones are Mediterranean diet sort of focused places. And so that's, I think we should leave people with a positive.
Absolutely. And you know, another thing we barely talked about the emotional aspect of it, but one of the biggest cause of mortality is feeling lonely, that you don't belong, that you're not valuable. And so it's so important that we also find our purpose through all of this. If we don't find ourselves, that we feel like we belong, we need to find a tribe. And I'm hoping that you will join the Heal Tribe. Call me at 407-373-5959. If you want to join the Healthy Eating and Living Tribe, you can call me 407-373-5959. Dr. Susan Blum, it is always so exciting, not only to have you on the show, but when I met you in the conference, the Institute of Functional Medicine conference, it was so nice to see your passion and your resolve and why you do what you do. And so if you could just implant one thought for us as we deal with dis-ease or inflammation in the body, what would that word be?
One word, maybe patience.
Patience.
You know, be patient with yourself. These are permanent lifestyle changes that you need to make, because that's your gut's an ecosystem and your body's an ecosystem, and you need to stick with it. So have patience with yourself. Choose one thing today, to change.
I love
that. And that would be my best advice today.
I love that, because we didn't all of a sudden wake up from last night and go, oh my gosh, I gained 30 pounds today. No, it doesn't. It's a gradual thing. And as long as, people just want a quick fix and, release the weight like yesterday. And the reality is patience is key. I love that word today. I think that's going to be my word for the day. And I hope that that's a word that everybody else will adopt. Thank you so much, Dr. Blum, for all your wisdom that you always share on the Lillian McDermott radio show.
Thank you for having me. It was really fun.
Yes, and for you, my listening friend, 10th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. You heard Dr. Blum. It's time to take your health back. You can get off your medications, but do it responsibly. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Very valuable information, Dr. Blum. Anything that we did not discuss that you'd like to quickly go over before we go?
No, I'm good. Just again,
Get the book.
Get the book. Okay.
I love that.
Here it is.
Healing Arthritis. And for those of you who always thought that once you get arthritis, you have to take the pill. If you just take the pill, it's just you're going to stay sick enough to take the other dose, the next dose. But if you perhaps maybe start adding other modalities, other changes into your life, you might be able to get off the pill. So thank you, Dr. Blum, for that, and for making us aware that we can take our health back. You're the best.
Thank you. And
to you, my viewers, thank you for watching today. Please like the show, share it with your friends. Help me grow. Let's grow together. Thank you. Let me just.